Master had a vision when he was a boy. The vision was of a very hot, dusty marketplace in a mountain village. And everybody was, dogs were barking and people were haggling, and there was nothing but confusion and noise. But every now and then somebody would stop in front of him and look at a point behind him, high up, and look with longing, and then look down again and say, it's too high for me, and go back to all their tamasha in the market. And after this happened several times, Master turned around to see what they were looking at, and he saw this high mountain, but at the top of it there was this beautiful park, beautiful garden. And his first thought was of longing to be there. His second thought was, oh, but it's much too high for me. Then he thought, but I can at least take one step at a time. And that's what Mr. Gupta has suggested. And he went up, taking one step at a time, he reached the mountaintop. So we can do it one step at a time. Whereas in the beginning it looks like a huge thing, it really isn't. But it will be very gratifying to be able to start in a big way to serve. You know, we're all leaving, not all of us, many of us are leaving, and I hope that many of you can come join us in a community in Pune. We've bought 25 acres. We hope to make it 125. And we would like to start a community as we have done in America and in Italy. This will be our 8th community. And we have about 1,000 people living in them. I think that America was the place to prove it, because Americans are very good at cooperating with each other. Indians are not so good. But if you learn that it works, then why not? The thing is, in Italy too, we had a difficult time in the beginning because everybody was thinking, well, my family comes first. But gradually they came to see, as Jesus said, Jesus Christ said, who is my mother and father and brother and sister except those who love God? And in fact, in families you see so much discord, brother suing brother, parents not being properly taken care of in their old age, so many things that are not satisfying with the worldly scene. It's better than nothing, but sometimes you wonder how much better. Now, we have had this thing this year, but I've changed it. We were going to celebrate we did celebrate our 40th anniversary this year at Ananda. And then I suddenly realized the only date that we absolutely have, the specific date, is July 4th, America's Independence Day, 1969, when we signed the papers to buy the main property that we have there. So if you can stand it, we're going to have another 40th anniversary next year. And you can say that 40 years gives you a pretty good experience, if a thing works or not. I can say that it's the most wonderful thing and most wonderful way to live that I know. Now, we have now about 1,000 people living in these different communities. They're not small. Our main community at Ananda Village is about 1,000 acres. And what we find, there was something in the paper very recently that talked very strongly about how your environment determines whether you're happy or unhappy. Not just your environment in the sense of trees, but people. If you mix with happy people, there would be much more likelihood that you too will be happy. Whereas if you mix with unhappy people, their magnetism pulls you down. Well, the beautiful thing about Ananda, and you've been able to see us now for quite a while, we're basically very happy people. We have harmony, we get along well with each other, we support each other in time of need and difficulty. And if a couple get married, we give them presents and help them to go on a honeymoon. And if somebody goes to the hospital, everybody's pitching in to help pay for his expenses. And there is sharing and sharing alike. No I've never appointed a leader who wanted to be a leader. I've only given it to those people who wanted to serve. And we have a spirit in our community of service. Now this is not so easy to develop, living in an ordinary worldly life with neighbors and dogs and who knows what else. When you live with people who all share this, you understand that doing good is something that comes naturally to man. Everybody at Ananda is trying to help everybody else as well as one another. I do not know that I, in my life of traveling, have ever come upon such wonderful communities as we have in these communities. And I want very much to start this pattern in India, not just little villages where people, you know, in the ordinary villages there's so much gossip and back-talking and everything, but in these communities there isn't. When somebody makes a mistake, instead of talking against him, people try to help him up. And I think intentional communities, instead of just villages that happen to come together maybe because there was a port there or a farm or whatever, this is the pattern for the future. This is what can change the world. And I really urge all of you who can to join such a community or to help start such a community. And I would like very much to see this ideal spread, as my Guru said, like wildfire around the world, because it is the answer to modern times, the problems that we face in modern times, even the depression that we see looming up before us, and it seems to be getting worse all the time, and rapidly so. Many big companies in America are failing. What happens in America financially is bound to hit the whole world, and is doing so. But if you have a group of people growing their own food, living together, living simply, then you find that you don't have to worry about the economy of the world. You can at least support yourself. You can build your own homes, grow your own food, even make your own clothes if necessary. And what else do people need? Shelter, food, clothing, bus. So, if we can set that example here, India, I think, will be greatly, greatly benefited. Indians have not learned how to cooperate. It isn't in their nature, but it is in your nature, I should say. But it is a possibility, and it's something everybody can learn. Italians, too, are not very good at it, but in our communities, they're wonderful. And here, among the Indians we have worked with, they are fine in cooperating with one another. It's a matter of example. It's a matter of training. And when everybody around you does this, then everybody fits in. So we will be moving to Pune, but we will not be uprooting our activities here in Gurgaon. And we'll keep the house I'm living in, and Preeti is building a school very near here, and we will have activities. Some of our people will live here, we'll have somebody in charge, but the people in charge of the whole of the Ananda activities in America are Dharmadas and Nirmala, because they've been in the work a long time. I have watched their spirit, and I'm very comfortable with it. I do not want people to be in charge just because they like to be in charge. These two are here to serve, not to be in charge. And the same with ministers. Not people who want to get up and talk, but people who want to share the truths they believe in. These are what we have always tried to accomplish. Now, one thing that is a very important thing with the spiritual path. Yes, it's good to have a community where everybody lives for God. Yes, it's good to have meditation groups and satsang with other devotees. But all day long, it's important to practice the presence of God. And this is what I wanted to talk about today, how to do that. one of the things that it would help very much is not to think of he or she, but you. Think of God in the second person, so that you share every thought, every question, every doubt with Him. When you make a mistake, don't think, well, I hope you can see that. Say, God, look what I've done. I can't help myself. But you were the doer, and you did it through me and helped me to be better. And God does not mind that. He likes it, because He wants you to give Him the credit or the blame for everything you do. This is the teaching of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Nishkam karma. Action without desire for the fruits of action. Let God be the doer of everything, and you will find that the more you do so, the more He becomes a living reality for you. But it's not enough just to say, okay, I'll do this. It's like a New Year's resolution, which people, if they make them, tend to break them by January 2nd. It's much better to resolve every morning, I'm going to think of God, I'm going to think of you all, at least for 1 hour today, the first hour. And when you've gotten that in a habit, then 2 hours, then 3 hours. Do it in small things, like this thing of Mr. Gupta. Giving small donations like this will add up quickly and into a large thing. So, in practicing the presence of God, try to share every thought with Him. And one very good practice, and you can start the day with this, is take a walk in silence. Don't be chattering. And share every impression, every movement, whatever, with God. So that as you walk, you feel it's your energy, Lord, that's working through me. And if you hear a dog barking, ask God, what are you trying to tell me through that dog? You know, it's amazing, but He can talk through everything if you listen. He's always talking to us, and we don't hear Him. If somebody says anything or whatever, it's God doing it. And just in that silence, make it an inner communion with Him. Kriya Yoga is a wonderful technique in this respect, because we need to learn that we live in a house of mirrors. And whatever we put out, whatever we project, that is what is reflected back to us. If we don't like something, the mirror shows us dislike. If we like something, the mirror shows us like. If things look beautiful, the mirror shows us beauty. But everything that we see in the world around us, whether beauty or ugliness, whether attractiveness or repulsion, all of this begins with ourselves. And this is something that the yogi gradually learns, and it's a very important thing to keep in mind. Whenever you react to anything, it's your reaction that determines what it's like, not the thing itself. Conditions are always neutral. It depends on the attitude of the mind that makes them seem positive or negative, cheerful or depressing. So when we understand this, we should trace back. For instance, don't do as some sadhus have said. Don't feel you mustn't enjoy the sunset. You mustn't enjoy everything. That's a very dry path. This neti is okay up to a point. But if you can see that it's with the inner joy that you're enjoying the sunset, you can discriminate and feel that that surge of joy that you feel in watching a beautiful sunset is in here, not out there. So you don't have to wait 24 hours for the next sunset. You can enjoy everything. It's a very interesting thing, but you can enjoy even what now you might think of as something unpleasant. I remember one time many years ago, I'm not writing music anymore, but I've written about 400 pieces, and this was back in the 60s when I was living in San Francisco, and somebody told me that a particular song of mine, I no longer even remember which it was, might be a good one for a famous artist to make popular. And I thought, well, this could be a service. The songs all say something. They're worthwhile to listen to. And so I went down to the nightclub district, because this man happened to be in San Francisco, the nightclub district of San Francisco, in the evening on Saturday night. Well, you can imagine, it was as if all these nightclubs, there was sort of a sucking energy coming in. And I just protected myself by inwardly chanting Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. And I felt so blissful, nothing could touch me. When you chant to God, when you share things with God, it creates a sort of a halo of light around your body, and you will find that nothing can come through. But that inner attunement with God and Guru is very important. Yogananda said, watch the company you keep. Company is more important than willpower, greater than willpower. And one disciple said, but sir, what do we do when we're alone? And he said, am I not always with you? And he is, and I've learned this. But God is always with you. There's nothing but God. So keep that thought in mind. Share everything with Him. And what you will find, however, when you can practice this, that every time you feel or see something beautiful or something causes you sort of a surge of energy, even an ice cream cone or something, try to feel here. You'll notice that every time you have a joyful reaction, there's an upward surge of energy. It's in the spine. And if you discriminate deeply enough, you'll feel it coming in the spine. And that's why when you see something beautiful or wonderful or whatever, the first thing you do is you inhale. Because inhalation is connected with ira in the spine, the upward flowing current in the spine. And when something depresses you, you say, you sigh. And that sigh is connected with the downward flowing breath. In fact, the breathing in the astral body is the movements of ira and pingala in the spine, the upward flow and the downward flow. And the breath is really only a reflection of that inner flow. When you go breathless, it means that ira and pingala have balanced themselves. And then the energy comes into Sushumna and Kundalini rises. This is yoga. This is why yoga is so important, because it's not just a teaching or sort of a difficult technique. It relates to realities of our own nature. And nobody is any different in these respects, whether he's a Hottentot or a whatever. It's true for everybody. And if you're a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim, it doesn't matter. You still react in these ways because man is made this way. And so we're, in a sense, like an upturned tree with the hair, the roots up above. And this is what it says in the Gita. Men call it the Ashwatha tree. With the roots up above, the trunk in the spine, the branches going out through the nerves. And when we can calm that current in the spine, then you find that you no longer, when that sunset inspires you and you feel this upward movement, it doesn't, the true teaching is not to yawn with infinite boredom when you see a beautiful object, but to understand that what it does and what makes it seem inspiring to you is that it lifts your energy. And so you can withdraw your energy from the outward object and say, it's here that I'm feeling. It is your reaction that determines whether it is positive or negative. And when you see something that discourages or depresses you, and we all find things in this world that are like that. This thing in Mumbai, for example, was certainly not an inspiring event. But instead of getting all angry about it, know that this is the nature of this world. I don't say we shouldn't do practical things about it, but we must understand that this is what the world is like, up and down, Dvaita. This is the nature of the universe, and it could not be different, because only God is one. And when He created the universe, He had to create vibration, Dvaita. And in that vibration, everything exists. When you can calm the waves of the ocean, then you can see the undiluted image of the moon. But as long as the ocean is rising and falling, there will be nothing but confusion. The moon will be in many, many little slivers, and the happiness of God and the bliss of God too will be broken up into countless pieces. And you will think that, oh yes, I get it in this and this and this and this. You must withdraw from the world, first of all. Secondly, you must understand that God flows from you to the world. This is why seva is such a good thing, because it changes the direction of your energy. Instead of thinking what the world is giving me, you think in terms of what I can give the world. I want to help people. Master said the greatest prayer is, give me thyself that I may give thee to all. And this is what we should all feel. I know when I was coming to Master, taking that bus 4 days and 4 nights across the country after reading autobiography of a yogi, I had two thoughts. One was to find God. The other was, this is such a wonderful teaching. I want everybody to know it. And I think that is a wholesome thought. God wants instruments, and He will use those who offer themselves in that spirit to Him. But it has to begin with the understanding that all that you can give is from here. It isn't that you can take something from here and give it there. It's just waves going up and down. But when you feel bliss in yourself and try to expand it, when you feel generous toward others, you reach the point where you feel that all are your brothers and sisters, at least in this sense, that all of them deeply need happiness, and very few of them know where to find it, because they identify happiness with outward things. And they think that they will find it in money, even if they're gangsters and steal it from other people, even if they're murderers and try to kill other people who get in their way, even if they're drunkards or whatever it might be, whatever the delusion. Everybody is seeking happiness, and they think that they will find it in things. But poor people, they don't. The Gita says that in a day of Brahma, many who were thrown out in the beginning of the day of Brahma are still roaming at the end of the day of Brahma. It's a frightening thought how long it can take. It takes 5 to 8 million incarnations, according to the Shastras, to reach the human level. But after that, man, as Master said, is so skillful in his ignorance. And he can find justification for so many mistakes. And if he doesn't find it in this, he'll look for it in that and that, and look around you. There are millions of ways. If this girl doesn't suit me, that one will, or that one, or that one, or that one. How many girls are there? Or men, or whatever. The answer cannot be in outwardness. And people look again and again, and then they turn to God. They think, well, nothing else will happen, all right, maybe. Until they get the opportunity to be a great singer that is saying, ah, this at last, finally. And they discover that it doesn't mean a thing. And they think, oh, this person is just what I've been looking for. And what's the day after? Rolling pins and black eyes, as Master put it. There is nothing in this world. Money, it means nothing. It's just a bit of paper, and I think that because too many people in this world, and especially in America, I'm sad to say, have been so dollar crazy, I think the dollar is going to be worth nothing. It's going down, and somehow in India it's coming up, but it won't last. I think the dollar will not be worth the paper it is printed on. That's what Master said. And the rupee, well, I I'm not going to get into an economic discussion, but I will say that as long as we think that our security lies outside ourselves, we cannot be happy. There was somebody that, Alexander, so-called the Great, although in the East they think of him as the Great Menace, the Great Destroyer. Anyway, he came to India and he heard about these holy men here, and he sent a message to one sadhu who was living under a tree, and the man representing him said that our great king wants you to come, and if you come he will shower you with blessings and money and everything, but if you don't he will take off your head. And this yogi said, well, my head is something completely useless, unnecessary to me. I have done what I need to do with this body. If he wants to take it, he's welcome to it. But if he wants to see me, then let him come to me. And the king was so struck by this answer, he did come. But the thing is that when you don't want money, it's amazing that God can take care of you if you do it for Him. You don't have to go like a beggar in the streets. He will take care of you. I have seen this in my life, because there have been periods in my life when I had nothing. And my father was, when we lived in Romania, a friend of his, one of our neighbors, had sent his sons to America, and they went bad because of all the money he sent them. So my father never gave us any money to speak of. He'd give us 50 cents allowance a week. And in those days even, it wasn't much. To take a girl to the movies, I had to walk 5 miles to avoid Clayton's. And when I went to college, it was the same thing, but somehow, although he only gave me $3 a month, which was to cover my expenses in eating and books and everything, somehow I found that I had enough money to treat my friends to milkshakes and whatever. Because if you live simply, you don't need to worry. What?
Just have an announcement, Sergeant.
Yes?
This car is blocking the neighbor's gate. He might create a ruckus. He needs to go out. 5792 Baleno. 5792. Anybody?
What color is it?
Oh, it's a Baleno. Maruti, please. We can't get a car. Thank you.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Now, where was I? And so...
Milkshakes.
$3
a month.
Yes. I found there was one period where when I was living alone, and I had I spent only $10 a month. I found I could do beautifully. Instead of bread, I would eat chapatis, and if I made a dessert, I would make it last the whole week and just take 1 teaspoon at the end of each meal. I would eat food like dal, which cost very little. I found I could get along well. And I don't say you should do these things, but prepare your minds to live simply, and you'll find that the financial problems of the world cannot touch you. But in a community still, you find this, what better insurance can there be than living with friends, all of whom are supporting each other with work and efforts and blessings. I believe in it with all my heart. And Master talked about it with great vigor when he was alive. Now, the important thing is that, however, even in a community, the community can't carry your relationship with God. Master said at Mount Washington, there are many rats and mice living in the canyon on this property. They're not finding God. It isn't a matter of where you live. Finally, it's a matter of what you do with your heart, with your mind and thoughts. Let everything be a gift to God. Share it with Him. Feel that you don't own anything. And you will find that with that thought, and the thought that you're doing everything for Him, He will take care of you. I've seen this in my life again and again. Even in little desires, He has fulfilled them. When I wanted to, there was a function in our community in the village to raise funds to improve the village. And people were asked to pledge $5, $10, a few things for trees and whatever. And there was one request which they hoped one of our businesses would pick up for $3,000, which they said was to improve the roads. And I knew that nobody would come up with that large a donation, so I didn't have any money, but I pledged $3,000. And I said, Divine Mother, you're going to have to make this good. And just, it was in 2 weeks that they needed that money. I had nothing. One day before it was due, I found a letter under my door, an envelope, with somebody who had just that day visited the community. I told nobody about my pledge. And he said, my mother died a few months ago, and I've been wanting to make a donation from her estate to you in gratitude for all that you have done for me. And it enclosed $3,000. Well, that's a wonderful story. It's a miracle, but it's so common in my life that I've seen, and I'm absolutely certain that if you give your thoughts and give your heart and give your life to God inwardly, married or single, it's a secondary thing. Just in your heart, give yourself to Him. You will find that He does take care of you. And the fears of this world are basically owe to the fact that people forget God. What is this problem today? People are forgetting God. They have too much. Master said they will have much less, but they will be more spiritual. And we have found in our communities in Italy and America that people are coming more to our retreats than ever because they're becoming more spiritual. So as you practice this presence of God all the time, make it a point every now and then to stop in your work. This is what I did in the beginning because I was so absolutely confused. I mean, 1 week before I had come to Yogananda to be his disciple, I had never even heard words like guru and yoga and karma and dharma and all these words that are so common. And although my heart accepted him absolutely, my mind was sort of stumbling and struggling to understand what this was all about. These teachings, I'd never heard them. And I had to stop every 15 minutes in my work, whatever it was, and just get my mind a little calm. And what you need to do every now and then, and I discovered this is a very good thing, every now and then in your work or in your activities, pause. Think of God a little bit. Just remind Him, hey, I'm still here. You will see that this will please Him very much. And what does it mean to please God? I remember I asked Ananda Ma once, is God pleased with me? She said, God is always pleased. Of course, that wasn't what I meant, but she picked up on it rightly. You don't have to worry about His being pleased. You will feel a certain pleasure in your heart because you feel His presence there. Practicing the presence of God is the greatest pleasure there can be. Much more satisfying than anything in the senses. And the more you practice that presence, the more you understand that when that final exam comes, you will be ready for it. I asked them to sing this song, I Live Without Fear, because I'm now 82. Sri Yukteswar left his body at 81. Sister Garamata left it at 82. Who knows when I will leave it? I sometimes feel it will be soon. But I think Master will keep me struggling as long as I have something to do to keep Him, to serve Him. And I would like to be here long enough at least to get this community started, but my first will is to do His will, and my life is entirely in His hands. And I have to say that this year physically has not been easy for me. My mind is still very clear, but my body, I go stumbling around, and the thing everybody's worried about is that I'll fall. And I do sometimes. It's just an inconvenience having an old body, and I don't recommend it. But there's not much you can do about it when it happens. So remember, your final exam will be the exam of death. The thought with which you go, Krishna says, will determine your future. Whether in a higher astral world, whether in a low astral world, whether in God. Don't have any desires. Give your desires to Him. And when that moment comes, you won't have to struggle against anything. You'll just, as Sister Gadamata said, as she was leaving her body, what joy, oh, what joy, too much joy. This is what we must do. Our final exam must prepare us to leave everything behind. Every day, every night, it would help you mentally to create a bonfire and throw every desire, every attachment, every hope of fulfillment, everything into that fire. It's a good practice, and it helps you to sleep freely because you don't own anything. And when you wake up in the morning, you'll say, oh, are you still there? All right, I'll take up my duties. But it doesn't matter what happens in this world, because it's all a dream anyway. Somebody said, a little child said to me sometime that his schoolmates laugh at him. He said, what should I do? I said, thank them. If people insult you, thank them. You don't have to get upset because people don't think well of you. They're usually wrong anyway. But thank them for reminding you that you are not this ego and it doesn't matter. I had this experience many years ago. I was supposed to be a part of a big panel discussion in Virginia, the other side of America, on communities. Well, I was the only one present there who actually had started a community and succeeded in my efforts. The others were famous speakers. I suppose I may have some fame too, but they were more in the public eye because I love not being in the public eye. I remember the Master saying that to Master, and he said, you better learn to like it. But I've always tended to not to want to be in public. Anyway, at the table, I invited all these famous speakers to come to the table with me at dinner in a restaurant, and they were all sort of talking to each other and ignoring me. And I was the only one there who had done what this conference was all about. I thought, how wonderful to be totally ignored. I remember after some function outside, I was talking with a young woman, and I asked her her name, and she told me, and I told her mine. She asked my name, and I told her, and she said, oh, but you're famous. I said, well, maybe, but why do you say but? And she said, well, all the other famous people I've met seem important. I was so happy not to seem important to her. It just doesn't matter what other people think of you. They're wrong most of the time anyway. So let the world howl. You try to please God. And be strong enough in yourself to let that desire be the only rule of your life. You will find that in this world, some people will like you, some people will not like you, some people will hate you. It's just the scene of Maya. It's something you can't expect to get away from, so why not be grateful for it? Because it will remind you that this is not where you belong. Anything that reminds you that this is not your home is a good reminder. Think of God's presence all the time, and He will be with you. Okay. God bless you all. I will ask God to bless you because I don't, you know this, as I've told you, my energy level has not been high this year, and I'm not sure I'm up to having everybody come and be blessed. So I'll just chant Om and ask God to bless you through these. Oh. Well, I'm really happy to be with you again.
Swamiji,
It's inside, but
would you allow us all to do a prayer to bless you?
Okay.
Let us bless Swamiji, especially for health and vitality. Let's rub our hands together.
Thank all of you very much.
Please, everyone, let's allow Swamiji to leave without touching his feet. Give him your blessings from where you are, so he can not stumble.